Happy Monday, everyone. It is Josh coming to folks with a snapshot tarot reading. Again, this is for anybody that stumbles across this video, anybody that happens to watch this. I want to talk about something before I get into the cards, and today we're going to be using this Mystical Medleys deck. I love this deck, this old timey wimey cartoony deck. I want to just talk about the last week of winter that we're in. Now, it's the last week of winter if you are in the northern hemisphere. It's going to be the last week of summer if you are in the southern hemisphere. March 20th, about a week from today, exactly a week from today, in fact, is the first day of spring. Yay! We just went through daylight savings time here in the States. It'll be for the folks in the southern hemisphere the first day of fall, for the first day of autumn. And, when we move through these gates of the seasons, when we move into different seasons, what have you, it's really an appropriate time for us to look back on the past 90 days, even 6 months, if you will, and, take a look at what worked well and take a look at what didn't, to take an inventory or an audit of our life. And no matter what we do in our world, we are going to encounter pain. So, you've got a week until the seasons shift. As you move yourself through this week and as you get ready to move into the next season, as you will, I want you to think about the pain that you've experienced over the past few months, the past 90 days at least. The trauma to whatever degree that you've experienced, that the disappointment, neglect, abandonment, rejection, all of the pain that you've received. And I want to invite you to become an alchemist. Alchemy is something that I really believe in, and for folks that don't know what alchemy is, classically, traditionally, in the medieval era, it was these scientists or occultists, and what they were trying to do is change lead or a base metal into gold. I love the idea of alchemy because whenever we're served pain, whenever we're served something that isn't ideal, we have a choice of either amplifying it, fertilizing it, nurturing it, or transforming it. Are we going to take the pain, the trauma, the turmoil that we've been served and turn it into more of the same, even if it's inside of us, or are we going to transform it? If somebody has said something awful to you and it affected you, are you going to continue to believe it, or can you transform it? And this is really the goal, I think, over the next week for all of us to really lean into is, what didn't work well? And maybe it was something about the lack of commitment that we had around certain goals, or, anything that we would like to see improved. How can we take and identify that which is negative and transform it into a positive? There's an opportunity there for us. And I think the first step in that is to not beat ourselves up, to not become that agent in our own trauma. With that being said, I'm going to shuffle 5 times and I'm going to give the snapshot tarot reading here. The snapshot, if this is the first time you've seen the snapshot tarot reading, the first card is going to be who you are in this moment. And I was almost going to say who we are in this moment. So I have a feeling this message might be for me as well. And I benefit from the wisdom of the cards, the wisdom of spirit, and all of that. So that's 2 more shuffles. The first card being who we are. The second card being what vexes and perplexes us. The third card being what heals and reveals. Okay. So the cards want to be split toward the bottom of the deck. Right there. Okay. This card right here is who we are in this moment. Okay, I love this. The King of Cups. Now, let's take a look at the story that this card tells. Because we see this guy, as a pirate maybe. He's got this telescope, and the waves are kind of tumultuous around him. Now, let me tell you about the King of Cups and who I believe this is. This is Gomez Addams. This is Gomez Addams. If you've ever seen the Addams Family, whether the classic TV show or the movies from the 90s, this is the card that represents Gomez to me. This is the King of Love. And I'd like you to think about Gomez. If you've ever seen those movies or those shows, he's devoted to his family. He's definitely devoted to his wife. And he knows that love is the most important aspect of our existence. He does. You know, and that's not to say that we won't have troubles or sicknesses or, you know, problems in our world, but the way that we manage to survive all of that is to transform those as best we can into that love. So right now, this card is a reminder of taking the negative and transforming it into the positive, taking non-love and turning it into love. Okay. The next card is what vexes and perplexes us. Okay, so the Ten of Cups. Let's talk about this. There's another Cups card. This card is, to me, what I refer to as the happily ever after card. All right, let's talk about the happily ever after. So everybody here, everybody watching this, I'm sure, has heard the term once upon a time. Also heard the term that happens at the end of that story, and they all lived happily ever after. I know that many of us don't have our happily ever after. I know that. And sadly, you know, I wish as much as I could that everybody in this world could have their happily ever after. It's not a reality. It's not a reality. We do get fed over the course of our development and over the course of our life some pretty impossible standards or goals to which to hold ourselves. And the happily ever after, the idea of the happily ever after, is one that we have to sit with from a realistic place. It's like the idea of the American dream. If you've ever heard the idea of the American dream, most people in America have, is, you know, you just work hard and you're gonna have success and abundance and all of that. And that's not necessarily true for us either. And yet we can hold resentment against this because many of us were taught that you do the right thing and you work hard and you're gonna get your happily ever after. Many of us don't get that. We will work hard, we'll be devoted, we'll be loyal, we'll be compassionate, we'll be all of that, but we don't get our happily ever after, that sense of completion or happiness. So this is certainly a card that vexes and perplexes us. And in the face of that, look how this card, Gomez, the King of Cups, says, hey, how can you transform that which isn't ideal into that which is ideal? How can you make in your own little kingdom, in your own little life, what is less than ideal into something that is pleasant as much as you can? So, King of Cups, Ten of Cups. All right, so that's two of our cards. The third and final card is what heals and reveals, and that card is the Page of Swords. I had a feeling this card was going to come up today. Now, all the pages are beginners. All the pages are messengers, right? But in tarot, we've got the page, the knight, the queen, the king, and it shows sort of a progression of development, if you will. This card really talks about being skillful. To me, again, this is my relationship with this card. This card talks about being skillful with our mind. With our mind. And if we're not skillful with our mind, we can hurt ourselves with it. Imagine if you'd never known what a sword was and you stumble upon one and you pick it up. You didn't know about, you know, the pointy end or the sharp edges or anything, and you're trying to figure it out. If you were to try to figure out how to use a sword without any training, you're going to hurt yourself or other people. This is like a car. If you try to get into a car and figure out how to drive a car without any guidance or teaching, you're going to hurt yourself or other people as you figure it out. The same goes with our mind. Most of us aren't taught how to use the very powerful mind that we have, so we can get these ideas of the happily ever after repeated and repeated and repeated, driven into our mind, that is very absorbent and really responds to the repeating messages it receives. Yet, if we're constantly bombarded with the improper messages, we're going to hurt ourselves with the sword of our mind. So this is a message for you, is, you know, today and over the next week, how can you skillfully use the mind that you've been given? Because it is a powerful tool. Most of us not taught how to use it with skill or grace. How can you take those programs that you've been given and be skillful with your mind so you can better transform everything that you encounter into love, like Gomez Adams. Gomez Adams gonna have a skillful mind, I believe, you know, that way to focus on the positive. So thank you. That's our snapshot. That's our last week of winter, or summer if you were on the southern hemisphere. Thank you for listening along, and I hope this helps anybody that needed to hear it.